Outside the Amerlin seat's study, Egwene and Nynaeve found the corridors empty except for an occasional serving woman hurrying about her duties on soft-slippered feet. Egwene was grateful for their presence. The halls suddenly seemed like caverns, for all the tapestries and stonework, dangerous caverns. Nynaeve strode along purposely, tugging at her braid fitfully again, and Egwene hurried to keep up. She did not want to be left alone. If the Black Aja is still here, Nynaeve, and if they even suspect what we're doing, I hope you didn't mean what you said about acting as if we were already bound by the 3 O's. I don't intend to let them kill me, not if I can stop it by channeling. If any of them are still here, Egwene, they will know what we are doing as soon as they see us. Despite what she was saying, Nynaeve sounded preoccupied. Or at least they will see us as a threat, and that's much the same thing as far as what they will do. How will they see us as a threat? Nobody is threatened by someone they can order about. Nobody is threatened by someone who has to scrub pots and turn the spits 3 times a day. That's why the Amerlin is putting us to work in the kitchens. Part of the reason, anyway. Perhaps the Amerlin did not think it through, Nynaeve said absently. Or perhaps she did, and means something different for us than what she claims. Think, Egwene. Liandrin would not have tried to put us out of the way unless she thought we were a threat to her. I can't imagine how or to what, but I cannot see how it could have changed either. If there are any Black Aja still here, they will surely see us the same way, whether they suspect what we're doing or not. Egwene swallowed. I hadn't thought of that. Light, I wish I were invisible. Nynaeve, if they are still after us, I will risk being stilled before I let dark friends kill me, or maybe worse, and I won't believe you will let them take you either, no matter what you told the Amerlin. I meant it. For a moment, Nynaeve seemed to rouse from her thoughts. Her steps slowed. A pale-haired novice carrying a tray rushed past. I meant every word, Egwene, Nynaeve went on when the novice was out of hearing. There are other ways to defend ourselves. If there were not, Aes Sedai would be killed every time they left the tower. We just have to reason those ways out and use them. I know several ways already, and so do you. They are dangerous. Egwene opened her mouth to say they were only dangerous to whoever attacked her, but Nynaeve plowed on over her. You can come to like them too much. When I let out my anger at those white cloaks this morning, it felt too good. It is too dangerous. She shivered and quickened her pace again, and Egwene had to step lively to catch up. Sound like Shiriam. You never have before. You have pushed every limit they've put on you. Why would you accept limits now, when we might have to ignore them to stay alive? What good if it ends with us being put out of the tower? Stilled or not, what good then? Nynaeve's voice dropped as if she were speaking to herself. I can do it. I must if I'm to stay here long enough to learn, and I must learn if I'm to... Suddenly she seemed to realize she was speaking aloud. She shot a hard look at Egwene, and her voice firmed. Let me think. Please, be quiet and let me think. Egwene held her tongue, but inside she bubbled with unasked questions. What special reason did Nynaeve have for wanting to learn more of what the White Tower could teach? What was it she wanted to do? Why was Nynaeve keeping it secret from her? Secrets. We've learned to keep too many secrets since coming to the tower. The Amerlin is keeping secrets from us, too. What is she going to do about that? Nynaeve accompanied her all the way back to his quarters, not turning aside to the Accepted's quarters. The galleries were still empty, and they met no one as they climbed the spiraling ramps. As they came up on Elaine's room, Nynaeve stopped, knocked once, and immediately opened the door and put her head inside. Then she was letting the white door swing shut and striding toward the next, Egwene's room. She isn't here yet, she said. I need to talk to both of you. Egwene caught her shoulders and pulled her to an abrupt halt. What? Something tugged at her hair, stung her ear. A black blur streaked in front of her face to clang against the wall, and in the next breath Nynaeve was bearing her to the gallery floor, behind the railing. Wide-eyed and sprawling, Egwene stared at what lay on the stone in front of her door, where it had fallen. A bolt from a crossbow. A few dark strands from her hair were tangled in the 4 heavy prongs, meant for punching through armor. She raised a trembling hand to touch her ear, to touch the tiniest nick, damp with a bead of blood. If I had not stopped just then, if I hadn't, the quarrel would have gone right through her head, and would probably have killed Nynaeve, too. Blood and ashes, she gasped. Blood and bloody ashes. Watch your language, Nynaeve admonished, but her heart was not in it. She lay peering between the white stone balusters toward the far side of the galleries. A glow surrounded her, to Egwene's eyes. She had embraced saidar. Hastily, Egwene tried to reach out for the one power too, but at first haste defeated her. Haste and images that kept intruding on the emptiness, images of her head being ripped apart like a rotten melon by a heavy quarrel that went on to bury itself in Nynaeve. She took a deep breath and tried again, and finally the rose floated in nothingness, open to the true source, and the power filled her. She rolled onto her stomach to peer through the railing beside Nynaeve. Do you see anything? Do you see him? I'll put a lightning bolt through him. She could feel it building, pressing on her to loose it. It is a man, isn't it? She could not imagine a man coming into the novice's quarters, but it was impossible to picture a woman carrying a crossbow through the tower. I don't know. Quiet anger filled Nynaeve's voice. Her anger was always at its worst when she grew quiet with it. I thought I saw, yes, there. Egwene felt the power pulse in the other woman, and then Nynaeve was unhurriedly getting to her feet, brushing at her dress as if there were nothing more to worry about. Wayne stared at her. What? What did you do?
Hey, ready here, hot fire, how you doing?
Of the 5 powers, Nynaeve said in a lecturing tone, faintly mocking. Air, sometimes called wind, is thought by many to be of the least use. This is far from true. She finished with a tight laugh. I told you there were other ways to defend ourselves. I used air.
Nice.
With air. If it is a he, I could not see him clearly. A trick the Amyrlin showed me once, though I doubt she expected me to see how it was done. Well, are you going to lie there all day? Egwene scrambled up to hurry after her around the gallery. Before long, a man did come into sight around the curve, dressed in plain brown breeches and coat. He stood facing the other way, balanced on the ball of one foot, with the other hanging in mid-air as if he had been caught in the middle of running. The man would feel as if he were buried in thick jelly, yet it was nothing but air stiffened around him. Egwene remembered the Amyrlin's trick, too, but she did not think she could duplicate it. Nynaeve only had to see a thing done once to know how to do it herself, when she could manage to channel it all, of course. They came closer, and Egwene's melding with the power vanished in shock. The hilt of a dagger stood out from the man's chest. His face sagged, and death had already filmed his half-closed eyes. He crumpled to the gallery floor as Nynaeve loosed the trap that had held him. He was an average-appearing man,
Poison, how you doing?
Average build, with features so ordinary Egwene did not think she
Hope
would have
you're doing
noticed
well.
him in a group of 3.
Cheers to
She only
everyone.
studied him a moment, though, before realizing that something was missing. A crossbow. She gave a start and looked about wildly. There had to be another one, Nynaeve. Somebody took the crossbow, and somebody stabbed him. He could be out there ready to shoot at us again. Calm yourself, Nynaeve said, but she peered both ways along the gallery.
Hell yeah.
Her brain.
I'm not doing too bad, I can't complain.
Her words cut off at the sound of steps on the ramp leading up to their level. Egwene's heart pounded, seemingly in her throat. Eyes fastened on the head of the ramp, she desperately strove to touch saidar again, but for her that required calm, and her heartbeats shattered calm. Shiriam Sedai stopped at the top of the ramp, frowning at what she saw. What in the name of the light has happened here? She hurried forward, her serenity gone for once. We found him, Nynaeve said, as the mistress of novices knelt beside the corpse. Shiriam put a hand to the man's chest and jerked it back twice as fast, hissing. Steeling herself visibly, she touched him again, and maintained the touch longer. Dead, she muttered.
No, it's not moonshine, it's,
When she straightened, she pulled a
a
handkerchief.
little bit of Crown Royal and a little bit of lemonade mix.
Here, like this? Egwene nodded, sure that if she spoke, Shiriam would hear the lie in her voice.
Well, it ain't too bad.
Nynaeve said firmly. Shiriam shook her head. A man, a dead man at that, in the novices' quarters would be scandal enough. But this, what makes him different? Nynaeve asked. And how could he be more than dead? Shiriam took a deep breath and gave them each a searching look. He is one of the soulless, a gray man. Absently, she wiped her fingers again, her eyes going back to the body. Worried eyes. The soulless? Egwene said, a tremor in her voice, at the same time that Nynaeve said, a gray man? Shiriam glanced at them, a look as penetrating as it was brief. Not a part of your studies yet, but you seem to have gone beyond the rules in a great many ways. And considering you found this, she gestured to the corpse. The soulless, the gray men, give up their souls to serve the Dark One as assassins. They are not really alive after that. Not quite dead, but not truly alive. And despite the name, some gray men are women. A very few. Even among dark friends, only a handful of women are stupid enough to make that sacrifice. You can look right at them and hardly notice them until it is too late. He was as much as dead while he walked. Now only my eyes tell me that
Hell yeah,
he
Poison.
lived at all.
Ain't no problem.
She gave them another long look. No gray man has dared enter Tar Valon since the Trollocs.
That's half the reason I do it,
What
is help
will you
people
do?
relax.
Egwene asked. Shiriam's brows rose, and she quickly added, If I may ask, Shiriam Sedai. The Aes Sedai hesitated. I suppose you may, since you had the bad luck to find him. It will be up to the Amyrlin seat, but with everything that has happened, I believe she will want to keep this as quiet as is possible. We do not need more rumors. You will speak of this to none but me, or to the Amyrlin, should she mention it first. Yes, Aes Sedai, Egwene said fervently. Nynaeve's voice was cooler. Shiriam appeared to take their obedience for granted. She gave no sign of having heard them. Her attention was all on the dead man, the gray man, the soulless. There will be no hiding the fact that a man was killed here. The glow of the One Power suddenly surrounded her, and just as abruptly, a long, low dome covered the body on the floor, grayish and so opaque that it was hard to see there was a body under it. But this will keep anyone else from touching him who can discover his nature. I must have this removed before the novices come back. Her tilted green eyes regarded them as if she had just remembered their presence. You two go now. To your room, I think, Nynaeve. Considering what you are already facing, if it became known you were involved in this, even on the edge of it, go. Egwene curtsied and tugged at Nynaeve's sleeve, but Nynaeve said, Why did you come up here, Shiriam Sedai? For a moment Shiriam looked startled, but on the instant she frowned. Fists on her hips, she regarded Nynaeve with all the firmness of her office. Does the Mistress of Novices now need an excuse for coming to the novices' quarters, Accepted? She said softly. Do Accepted now question Aes Sedai? The Amyrlin means to make something of you two, but whether she does or not, I will teach you manners at least. Now the pair of you go, before I haul you down to my study, and not for the appointment the Amyrlin seat is already set for you. A sudden thought came to Egwene. Forgive me, Shiriam Sedai, she said quickly, but I must fetch my cloak. I feel cold. She rushed away around the
I think
gallery
he put up
before
a
the
new
Aes
one.
Sedai could speak. If Shiriam found that crossbow bolt in front of her door, there would be too many questions. No pretending they had only found the man, that he had no connection to her then. But when she reached the door to her room, the heavy bolt was gone. Only the jagged chip in the stone beside the door said it had ever been there. Egwene's skin crawled. How could anyone take it without one of us seeing? Another gray man. She had embraced Saidar before she knew it, only the sweet flow of the power inside her telling her what she had done. Even so, it was one of the hardest things she had ever done, opening that door and going into her room. There was no one there. She snatched the white cloak off its peg and ran out anyway, and she did not release Saidar until she was halfway back to the others. Something more had passed between the women while she was gone. Nynaeve was attempting to appear meek, and succeeding only in looking as if she had a sour stomach. Shiriam had her fists on her hips, and was tapping her foot irritably, and the stare she was giving Nynaeve, like green millstones ready to start grinding barley flour, took in Egwene equally. Forgive me, Shiriam Sedai, she said hastily, dropping a curtsy and settling her cloak on her shoulders at the same time. This finding a dead man, a gray man, It made me cold. If we may go now? At Shiriam's tight nod of dismissal, Nynaeve made a bare curtsy. Egwene seized her arm and hustled her away. Are you trying to make more trouble for us? She demanded when they were 2 levels down, and safely out of earshot of Shiriam, she hoped. What else did you say to her to make her glare like that? More questions, I suppose? I hope you learned something worth making her mad at us. She would not say anything, Nynaeve muttered. We must ask questions if we are to do any good, Egwene. We will have to take a few chances, or we'll never learn anything. Egwene sighed. Well, be a little more circumspect. From the set of Nynaeve's face, the other woman had no intention of going easy or avoiding risks. Egwene sighed again. The crossbow bolt was gone, Nynaeve. It must have been another Grey man who took it. So that is why you... What? Nynaeve frowned and gave a sharp tug to her braid. After a time, Egwene said, What was that she did to cover the body? She did not want to think of it as a Grey man. That reminded her there was another one out there. She did not want to think of anything at all right then. Air, Nynaeve replied. She used air. A neat trick, and I think I see how to make something useful with it. Use of the one power was divided into the 5 powers: earth, air, fire, water, and spirit. Different talents require different combinations of the 5 powers. I don't understand some of the ways the 5 powers are combined. Take healing. I can see why it requires spirit and maybe air, but why water? Nynaeve rounded on her. What are you babbling about? Have you forgotten what we're doing? She looked around. They had reached the Accepted's quarters, a stack of galleries lower than the novices' quarters, surrounding a garden rather than a court. There was no one in sight except for another Accepted, hurrying along on another level, but she lowered her voice. Have you forgotten the Black Ajah? I'm trying to forget it, Egwene said fiercely. For a little while, anyway. I am trying to forget that we just left a dead man. I'm trying to forget that he almost killed me, and that he has a companion who might try it again. She touched her ear. The drop of blood had dried, but the nick still hurt. You're lucky we aren't both dead right now. Nynaeve's face softened, but when she spoke, her voice held something of the time when she had been the wisdom of Emond's Field, saying words that had to be said for someone's own good. Remember that body, Egwene. Remember that he tried to kill you, kill us. Remember the Black Ajah. Remember them all the time, because if you forget, just once, the next time it may be you lying dead. I know, Egwene sighed, but I do not have to like it. Did you notice what Shiriam did not mention? No, what? She never wondered who stabbed him. Now come on. My room is just down here, and you can put your feet up while we talk.
Hey, Fire, how you doing?
16. Hunters 3. Maeve's room was considerably larger than the novice rooms. She had a real bed, not one built into the wall, 2 ladder-back armchairs instead of a stool, and a wardrobe for her clothes. The furnishings were all plain, suitable for a middling successful farmer's house, but compared to the novices, the Accepted lived in luxury. There was even a small rug, woven with scrolls of yellow and red.
Oh, yeah, that's good.
The room was not empty when Egwene and Nynaeve entered. Elaine stood in front of the fireplace, arms crossed beneath her breasts and eyes red at least partly from anger. 2 tall young men sprawled in the chairs, all arms and legs. One, with his dark green coat undone to show a snowy shirt, shared Elaine's blue eyes and red gold hair, and his grinning face marked him plainly as her brother. The other, Nynaeve's age, and with his gray coat neatly buttoned, was slender and dark of hair and eye. He rose all sure confidence and lively muscled grace when Egwene and Nynaeve came in. He was, Egwene thought, not for the first time, the most handsome man she had ever seen. His name was Galad. It is good to see you again, he said, taking her hand. I have worried much over you. We have worried much. Her pulse quickened, and she took back her hand before he should feel it. Thank you, Galad, he murmured. Light, but he's beautiful. She told herself to stop thinking that way. It was not easy. She found herself smoothing her dress, wishing he were seeing her in silk, instead of this plain white wool. Perhaps even one of those Domani dresses men had told her of, the ones that clung and seemed so thin you thought they must be transparent, even though they were not. She flushed furiously and banished the image from her mind, willed him to look away from her face. It did not help that half the women in the tower, from scullery maids to Aes Sedai themselves, looked at him as if they had the same thoughts. It did not help that his smile seemed for her alone. In fact, his smile made it worse. Life, if he even suspected what I was thinking, I'd die. The golden-haired young man leaned forward in his chair. The question is, where have you been? Elaine dodges my questions as if she has a pocket full of figs and doesn't want me to have any. I have told you, Gawain, Elaine said in a tight voice. It is none of your affair. I came here, she added to Nynaeve, because I did not want to be alone. They saw me and followed. They would not take no for an answer. Wouldn't they? Nynaeve said flatly. But it is our affair, sister, Galad said. Your safety is very much our affair. He looked at Egwene, and she felt her heart jump. The safety of all of you is very important to me, to us. I'm not your sister, Elaine snapped. If you want company, Gawain told Elaine with a smile, we can do as well as any. And after what we went through just to be here, we deserve some explanation of where you've been. I would rather let Galad thump me all over the practice yard all day than face Mother again for a single minute. I'd rather have Coolin mad at me. Coolin was master of arms and kept a tight discipline among the young men who came to train at the White Tower, whether they aspired to become warders or just to learn from them. Deny the connection if you will, Galad told Elaine bravely, but it is still there, and Mother put your safety in our hands. Gawain grimaced. She'll have our hides, Elaine, if anything happens to you. We had to talk fast, or she'd have hauled us back home with her. I have never heard of a queen sending her own sons to the headsman, but Mother sounded ready to make an exception if we don't bring you home safely. I am sure, Elaine said, that your fast talk was all for me. None of it was meant to let you stay here studying with the warders. Gawain's face reddened. Your safety was our first concern. Galad sounded as if he meant it, and Egwene was sure he did. We managed to convince Mother that if you did return here, you would need someone to look after you. Look after me? Elaine exclaimed, but Galad went on smoothly. The White Tower has become a dangerous place. There have been deaths, murders, with no real explanations. Even some Aes Sedai have been killed, though they have tried to keep that quiet. And I have heard rumors of the Black Ajah, spoken in the tower itself. By Mother's command, when it is safe for you to leave your training, we are to return you to Caemlyn. For answer, Elaine lifted her chin and half turned away from him. Gawain ran a hand through his hair in frustration. Like Nynaeve, Galad and I are not villains. All we want to do is help. We would do it anyway, but Mother commanded it, so there's no chance of you talking us out of it. Borghese's commands carry no weight in Tar Valon, Nynaeve said in a level voice.
Oh shit.
As for your offer of help, I will remember it. Should we need help, you will be among the first to hear of it. For now, I wish you to leave. She gestured pointedly to the door, but he ignored her. That is all very well, but Mother will want to know Elaine has come back, and why she ran off without a word, and what she was doing these months. Right, Elaine, the whole tower was in a turmoil. Mother was half crazed with fear. I thought she'd tear the tower down with her bare hands. Elaine's face took on a measure of guilt, and Gawain pressed his advantage. You owe her that much, Elaine. You owe me that much. Burn me, you're being as stubborn as stone. You've been gone for months, and all I know about it is that you've run afoul of Shirian, and the only reasons I know that much are because you've been crying and you won't sit down. Elaine's indignant stare said he had squandered whatever momentary advantage he might have had. Enough, Nynaeve said. Galad and Gawain opened their mouths. She raised her voice. I said enough. She glared at them until it was clear their silence would hold, then went on. Elaine owes the two of you nothing. Since she chooses to tell you nothing, that is that. Now this is my room, not the common room of an inn, and I want you out of it. But Elaine, Gawain began at the same time that Galad said, we only want... Nynaeve spoke loudly enough to drown them out. I doubt you asked permission to enter the acceptance quarters. They stared at her, looking surprised. I thought not. You will be out of my room, out of my sight, before I count 3, or I will write a note to the Master of Arms about this. Kulin Gaiden has a much stronger arm than Shiriam Sadai, and you may be assured that I will be there to see he makes a proper job of it. Nynaeve, you wouldn't, Gawain began worriedly, but Galad motioned him to silence and stepped closer to Nynaeve. Her face kept its stern expression, but she unconsciously smoothed the front of her dress as he smiled down at her. Egwene was not surprised. She did not think she had met a woman outside the Red Ajah who would not be affected by Galad's smile. I apologize, Nynaeve, for our forcing ourselves on you unwanted, he said smoothly. We will go, of course. But remember that we are here if you need us, and whatever caused you to run away, we can help with that as well. Nynaeve returned his smile. Fun, she said. Galad blinked, the smile fading. Calmly he turned to Egwene. Gawain got up and started for the door. Egwene, Galad said, you know that you especially can call on me at any time for anything. I hope you know that. 2, Nynaeve said. Galad gave her an irritated look. We will talk again, he told Egwene, bowing over her hand. With a last smile, he took an unhurried step toward the door. Thurr! Gawain darted through the door, and even Galad's graceful stride quickened markedly. Read! Nynaeve finished, as the door banged shut behind them. Elaine clapped her hands delightedly. Oh, well done, she said. Very well done. I did not even know men were forbidden quarters too. They aren't, Nynaeve said dryly, but those louts did not know it either. Elaine clapped her hands again and laughed. I'd have let them just leave, Nynaeve added, if Galad had not made such a show of his taking his time about it. That young man has too fair a face for his own good. Egwene almost laughed at that. Galad was no more than a year younger than Nynaeve, if that, and Nynaeve was straightening her dress again. Galad, Elaine sniffed. He'll bother us again, and I do not know whether your trick will work more than once. He does what he sees as right, no matter who it hurts, even himself. Then I will think of something else, Nynaeve said. We can't afford to have them looking over our shoulders all the time. Elaine, if you wish, I can make a salve that will soothe you. Elaine shook her head, then lay down across the bed with her chin in her hands. If Shiriam found out, we would no doubt both have yet another visit to her study to look forward to. You have not said very much, Egwene? Cat got your tongue? Her expression became grimmer. Or perhaps Galad has. Egwene blushed in spite of herself. I simply did not choose to argue with them, she said, in as dignified a tone as she could manage. Of course, Elaine said grudgingly. I will admit that Galad is good-looking. But he is horrid, too. He always does right as he sees it. I know that does not sound horrid, but it is. He has never disobeyed Mother, not in the smallest thing that I know of. He will not tell a lie, even a small one, or break a rule. If he turns you in for breaking one, there isn't the slightest spite in it. He seems sad you could not live up to his standards, if anything, but that doesn't change the fact that he will turn you in. Sounds uncomfortable, Egwene said carefully, but not horrid. I cannot imagine Galad doing anything horrid. Elaine shook her head, as if in disbelief that Egwene found it so hard to see what was clear to her. If you want to pay attention to someone, try Gawain. He is nice enough most of the time, and he's besotted with you. Gawain? He has never looked at me twice. Of course not, you fool, the way you stare at Galad until your eyes look ready to fall out of your face. Egwene's cheeks felt hot, but she was afraid it might well be true. Galad saved his life when Gawain was a child, Elaine went on. Gawain will never admit he is interested in a woman if Galad is interested in her, but I've heard him talk about you, and I know. He never could hide things from me. That is nice to know, Egwene said, then laughed at Elaine's grin. Perhaps I can get him to say some of those things to me instead of you. You could choose Green Ajah, you know. Green sisters sometimes marry. Gawain truly is besotted, and you would be good for him. Besides, I would like to have you for a sister." "If you two are finished with girlish chatter," Nynaeve cut in, "there are important matters to talk about." "Yes," Elaine said, "such as what the Amelin Seat had to say to you after I left." "I would rather not talk about that," Egwene said awkwardly. She did not like lying to Elaine. She did not say anything that was pleasant. Elaine gave a sniff of disbelief. "Most people think I get off easier than the others because I am daughter heir of Andor. The truth is that if anything, I catch it harder than the rest because I'm daughter heir. Neither of you did anything I did not, and if the Amelin had harsh words for you, she would have twice as harsh for me. Now, what did she say?" "Must keep this just between us three," Nynaeve said. "The Black Ajah—" "Nynaeve!" Egwene exclaimed. "The Amelin said Elaine was to be left out of it." "The Black Ajah!" Elaine almost shouted, scrambling up to kneel in the middle of the bed. "You cannot leave me out after telling me this much. I won't be left out." "I never meant for you to be," Nynaeve assured her. Egwene could only stare at her in amazement. "Egwene, it was you and I who Liandrin saw as a threat. It was you and I who were just nearly killed." "Nearly killed?" Elaine whispered. "Perhaps because we are still a threat, and perhaps because they already know that we were closeted alone with the Amelin, and even what she told us. We need someone with us who they do not know about, and if she isn't known to the Amelin either, so much the better. I'm not sure we can trust the Amelin much further than the Black Ajah. She means to use us for her own ends. I mean to see she doesn't use us up. Can you understand that?" Egwene nodded reluctantly. "Just the same," she said, "it will be dangerous, Elaine. As dangerous as anything we faced in Falma, maybe more so. You do not have to be part of it this time." "I know that," Elaine said quietly. She paused, then went on. "When Andor goes to war, the first Prince of the Sword commands the army. The Queen rides with them too. 700 years ago, at the Battle of Qualen Den, the Andor men were being routed when Queen Modralane rode, alone and unarmed, carrying the lion banner into the midst of the Tyran army. The Andor men rallied and attacked once more to save her and won the battle. That is the kind of courage expected of the Queen of Andor. If I have not learned to control my fear yet, I must before I take my mother's place on the lion throne." Suddenly her somber mood vanished in a giggle. "Besides, do you think I would pass up an adventure so I could scrub pots?" "You will do that anyway," Nynaeve told her, "and hope that everyone thinks that is all you are doing. Now listen carefully." Elaine listened, and her mouth slowly dropped open as Nynaeve unfolded what the Amelin Seat had told them, and the task she had laid on them, and the attempt on their lives. She shivered over the gray man and read the document the Amelin had given Nynaeve with a look of wonder, then returned it, murmuring, "I wish I could have that when I face Mother next." By the time Nynaeve finished, her face was a picture of indignation. "Why, that's like being told to go up in the hills and find lions. Only you do not know whether there are any lions, but if there are, they may be hunting you, and they may be disguised as bushes. Oh, and if you find any lions, try not to let them eat you before you can tell where they are." "If you are afraid," Nynaeve said, "you can still stand aside. It will be too late once you've begun." Elaine tossed her head back. "Of course I am afraid. I'm not a fool, but not afraid enough to quit before I have even started." "There is something else, too," Nynaeve said. "I'm afraid the Amelin may mean to let Mat die." "But an Aes Sedai is supposed to heal anyone who asks." The daughter heir seemed caught between indignation and disbelief. "Why would she let Mat die? I cannot believe it. I will not." "Nor can I," Egwene gasped. "She could not have meant that. The Amelin couldn't let him die. All the way here, Varen said that the Amelin would see he was healed." Nynaeve shook her head. "Varen said the Amelin would see to him. That is not the same thing. And the Amelin avoided saying yes or no when I asked her. Maybe she has not made her mind up." "But why?" Elaine asked. "Because the White Tower does what it does for its own reasons." Nynaeve's voice made Egwene shiver. "I do not know why. Whether they help Matt live or let him die depends on what serves their ends. None of the three oaths say they have to heal him. Matt is just a tool in the Amerlin's eyes. So are we. She will use us to hunt the Black Adja, but if you break a tool so it cannot be fixed, you don't weep over it. You just get another one. Both of you had best remember that. What are we going to do about him? Egwene asked. What can we do? Nynaeve went to her wardrobe and rummaged in the back of it. When she came out, she had a striped cloth bag of herbs. With my medicines and luck, perhaps I can heal him myself. Perrin could not, Elaine said. Moiraine and Perrin together could not, and Moiraine had an ugly eye. Nynaeve, if you draw too much of the one power, you could burn yourself to a cinder, or just still yourself if you are lucky, if you can call that luck. Nynaeve shrugged. They keep telling me I have the potential to be the most powerful Aes Sedai in 1,000 years. Perhaps it is time to find out whether they are right. She gave a tug to her braid. It was plain that however brave Nynaeve's words, she was afraid. But she won't let Matt die, even if it means risking death herself. They keep saying we're all three so powerful, or will be. Maybe if we all try together, we can divide the flow among us. We've never tried working together, Nynaeve said slowly. I am not sure I know how to combine our abilities. Trying could be almost as dangerous as drawing too much of the power. Well, if we are going to do it, Elaine said, climbing off the bed, let's do it. The longer we talk of it, the more frightened I will become. Matt is in the guest rooms. I do not know which one, but Shiriam told me that much. As if to put period to her words, the door banged open, and an Aes Sedai entered as though it were her room, and they the interlopers. Egwene made her curtsy deep to hide the dismay on her face. Chapter 17. The Red Sister. Elaida was a handsome woman rather than beautiful, and the sternness on her face added maturity to her ageless Aes Sedai features. She did not look old, yet Egwene could never imagine Elaida as having been young. Except for the most formal occasions, few Aes Sedai wore the vine-embroidered shawl with the white teardrop flame of Tar Valon large on the wearer's back, but Elaida wore hers, the long red fringe announcing her Adja. Red slashed her dress of cream-colored silk, too, and red slippers peeked under the edge of her skirts as she moved into the room. Her dark eyes watched them as a bird's eyes watched worms. So all of you are together. Somehow that does not surprise me. Her voice made no more pretense than her bearing did. She was a woman of power, and ready to wield it if she decided it was necessary, a woman who knew more than those she spoke to. It was much the same for a queen as for a novice. Give me an Aes Sedai, Nynaeve said, dropping another curtsy, but I was about to go out. I have much to catch up in my studies. If you will forgive, your studies can wait, Elaida said. They have waited long enough already, after all. She plucked a cloth bag out of Nynaeve's hands and undid the strings, but after one glance inside, she tossed it on the floor. Herbs. You are not a village wisdom any longer, child. Trying to hold on to the past will only hold you back. Elaida Sedai, Elaine said. Be silent. Elaida's voice was cold and soft, as silk wrapped around steel is soft. You may have broken a bond between Tar Valon and Caemlyn that has lasted 3,000 years. You will spook when spoken to. Elaine's eyes examined the floor in front of her toes. Spots of color burned in her cheeks. Guilt or anger? Egwene was not sure. Ignoring them all, Elaida sat down in one of the chairs, carefully arranging her skirts. She made no gesture for the rest of them to sit. Nynaeve's face tightened, and she began giving sharp little tugs to her braid. Egwene hoped she would keep her temper well enough not to take the other chair without permission. When Elaida had settled herself to her own satisfaction, she studied them for a time in silence, her face unreadable. At last she said, Did you know that we have the Black Adja among us? Egwene exchanged startled glances with Nynaeve and Elaine. We were told, Nynaeve said cautiously. Elaida Sedai, she added after a pause. Elaida arched an eyebrow. Yes, I thought that you might know of it. Egwene gave a start at her tone, implying so much more than it said, and Nynaeve opened her mouth angrily, but the Aes Sedai's flat stare stilled tongues. The two of you, Elaida went on in a casual tone, vanish, taking with you the daughter heir of Andor, the woman who may become Queen of Andor one day, if I do not strip off her hide and sell it to a glove maker. Vanish without permission, without word, without trace. I was not carried off, Elaine said to the floor. I went at my own. You obey me, child? A glow surrounded Elaida. The Aes Sedai's glare was fixed on Elaine. Must I teach you here and now? Elaine raised her head, and there was no mistaking what was in her face. Anger. For a long moment she met Elaida's stare. Wayne's fingernails dug into her palms. It was maddening. She or Elaine or Nynaeve could destroy Elaida where she sat. If they caught Elaida by surprise, at least, she was fully trained after all. And if we do anything but take whatever she wants to feed us, we throw away everything. Don't throw it away now, Elaine. Elaine's head dropped. Forgive me, Elaida Sedai, she mumbled. I forgot myself. The glow winked out of existence, and Elaida sniffed audibly. You have learned bad habits wherever these two took you. You cannot afford bad habits, child. You will be the first queen of Andor ever to be Aes Sedai. The first queen anywhere to be Aes Sedai in over 1,000 years. You will be one of the strongest of us since the breaking of the world, perhaps strong enough to be the first ruler since the breaking to openly tell the world she is Aes Sedai. Do not risk all of that, child, because you can still lose it all. I have invested too much time to see that. Do you understand me? I think so, Elaida Sedai, Elaine said. She sounded as if she did not understand at all. No more did Egwene. Elaida abandoned the subject. You may be in grave danger, all three of you. You disappear and return, and in the interval, Liandrin and her companions leave us. There will inevitably be comparisons. We are sure Liandrin and those who went with her are dark friends. Black Hotcha. I would not see the same charge leveled at Elaine, and to protect her, it seems I must protect all of you. Tell me why you ran away, and what you have been doing these months, and I will do what I can for you. Her eyes fastened on Egwene like grappling hooks. Egwene floundered for an answer that the Aes Sedai would accept. It was said that Elaida could hear a lie sometimes. It was Mat. He is very sick. She tried to choose her words carefully, to say nothing that was not true, yet give an impression far from truth. Aes Sedai do it all the time. We brought him back to be healed. If we hadn't, he would die. The Amelin is going to heal him. I hope. She made herself continue to meet the red Aes Sedai's gaze, willed herself not to shift her feet guiltily. From Elaida's face there was no way to tell whether she believed a word. That is enough, Egwene, Nynaeve said. Elaida's penetrating look shifted to her, but she gave no sign of being affected. She met the Aes Sedai's eyes without blinking. Forgive me for interrupting, Elaida Sedai, she said smoothly, but the Amelin seat said our transgressions were to be put behind us and forgotten. As part of making a new beginning, we are not even to speak of them. The Amelin said it should be as if they never happened. She said that, did she? Still, nothing in Elaida's voice or on her face told whether she believed or not. Interesting. You can hardly forget entirely when your punishment has been announced to the entire tower. Unprecedented that. Unheard of, for less than stilling. I can see why you are eager to put it all behind you. I understand you are to be raised to be accepted, Elaine. And Egwene. That is hardly punishment. Thane glanced at the Aes Sedai as though for permission to speak. The mother said we were ready, she said. A touch of defiance entered her voice. I have learned, Elaida Sedai, and grown. She would not have named me to be raised if I had not. Learn, Elaida said musingly, and grown. Perhaps you have. There was no hint in her tone whether she thought this was good. Her gaze shifted back to Egwene and Nynaeve, searching. You returned with this Matt, a youth from your village. There was another young man from your village, Randall Thor. Egwene felt as if an icy hand had suddenly gripped her stomach. I hope he is well, Nynaeve said levelly, but her hand was a fist gripping her brain. We have not seen him in some time. An interesting young man. Elida studied them as she spoke. I met him only once, but I found him most interesting. I believe he must be Taviran. Yes, the answers to many questions may rest in him. This Emmons Field of yours must be an unusual place to produce the two of you, and Randall Thor. It is just a village, Nynaeve said. Just a village like any other. Yes, of course, Elida smiled, a cold quirk of her lips that twisted Egwene's stomach. Tell me about him. The Amelin has not commanded you to be silent about him also, has she? Nynaeve gave her braid a tug. Elaine studied the carpet as if something important were hidden in it, and Egwene racked her brain for an answer. She can hear lies, they say. Light. If she can
Hope
really
everyone's
hear
having a
lies.
good evening.
The moment stretched on, until finally Nynaeve opened her mouth. At that instant the door opened again. Shiriam regarded the room with a measure of surprise. It is well I find you here, Elaine. I want all three of you. I had not expected you, Elida. Elida stood, arranging her shawl. We are all curious about these girls. Why they ran away, what adventures they had while gone. They say the mother has commanded them not to speak of it. As well not to, Shiriam said. They are to be punished, and that should be an end to it. I have always felt that when punishment is done, the fault that caused it should be erased. For a long moment the two Aes Sedai stood looking at each other, no expression on either smooth face. Then Elida said, "Oh, perhaps I will speak to them another time, about other matters." The look she gave to the three women in white seemed to Egwene to carry a warning, and then she was slipping past Shiriam. Holding the door open, the Mistress of Novices watched the other Aes Sedai go down the gallery. Her face was still unreadable. Egwene let out a long breath and heard echoes from Nynaeve and Elaine. She threatened me, Elaine said incredulously and half to herself. She threatened me with stilling if I don't stop being willful. You mistook her, Shiriam said. If being willful were a stilling offense, the list of the stilled would have more names on it than you could learn. Few meek women ever achieve the ring and the shawl. That is not to say, of course, that you must not learn to act meekly when it is required. Yes, Shiriam, said I. They all three said almost at one, and Shiriam smiled. You see, you can give the appearance of meekness at least, and you will have plenty of opportunity to practice before you earn your way back into the Amelin's good graces. And mine. Mine will be harder to achieve. Yes, Shiriam, said I, Egwene said, but this time only Elaine spoke with her. Nynaeve said, what of the body, Shiriam, said I. The soulless. Have you discovered who killed him, or why he entered the tower? Shiriam's mouth tightened. You take one step forward, Nynaeve, and then a step back. Since from Elaine's lack of surprise you have obviously told her of it, after I told you not to speak of the matter, then there are exactly 7 people in the tower who know a man was killed today in the novices' quarters, and 2 of them are men who know no more than that, except that they are to keep their mouths shut. If an order from the Mistress of Novices carries no weight with you, and if that is so I will correct you, perhaps you will obey one from the Amelin seat. You are to speak of this to no one except the mother or me. The Amelin will not have more rumors piled on those we must already contend with. Do I make myself clear? The firmness of her voice produced a chorus of, yes, Shiriam, said I, but Nynaeve refused to stop at that. 7, you said, Shiriam, said I, plus whoever killed him, and maybe they had help getting into the tower. It is no concern of yours. Shiriam's level gaze included them all. I will ask whatever questions must be asked about this man. You will forget you know anything at all about a dead man. If I discover you are doing anything else, well, there are worse things than scrubbing pots to occupy your attention. and I will not accept any excuses. Do I hear any more questions? No, Shiriam, said I. This time Nynaeve joined in, to Egwene's relief. Not that she felt very much relief. Shiriam's watchful eye would make it doubly hard to carry out a search for the Black Ajah. For a moment she felt like laughing hysterically. If the Black Ajah doesn't catch us, Shiriam will. The urge to laugh vanished. If Shiriam isn't Black Ajah herself. She wished she could make that thought go away. Shiriam nodded. Very well, then, you will come with me. To where? Nynaeve asked, and added, Shiriam, said I, only an instant before the Aes Sedai's eyes narrowed. Have you forgotten, Shiriam said in a tight voice, that in the tower healing is always done in the presence of those who bring their sick to us? Egwene thought that the Mistress of Novices' stock of patience with them was about used up, but before she could stop herself, she burst out, Then she is going to heal him. The Amyrlin Seat herself, among others, will see to him. Shiriam's face held no more expression than her voice. Did you have reason to doubt it? Egwene could only shake her head. Then you waste your friend's life standing here. The Amyrlin Seat is not to be kept waiting. Yet despite her words, Egwene had the feeling the Aes Sedai was in no hurry at all. Chapter 18. Healing. Lamps on iron wall brackets lit the passages deep beneath the tower where Shiriam took them. The few doors they passed were shut tight, some locked, some so cunningly worked that they remained unseen until Egwene was right on top of them. Dark openings marked most of the crossing hallways, while down others she could only see the dim glow of distant lights spaced far apart. She saw no other people. These were not places even Aes Sedai often came. The air was neither cool nor warm, but she shivered anyway, and at the same time felt sweat trickling down her back. It was down here, in the depths of the White Tower, that novices went through their last test before being raised to accepted, or put out of the tower if they failed. Down here, accepted took the 3 oaths after passing their final test. No one, she realized, had ever told her what happened to an accepted who failed. Down here, somewhere, was the room where the tower's few Angreal and Sa'angreal were kept, and the places where the Ter'angreal were stored. The Black Ajah had struck at those storerooms, and if some of the Black Ajah were lying in wait in one of those dark side corridors, if Shiriam were leading them not to Mat, but to... She gave a squeak when the Aes Sedai stopped suddenly, then colored.
I'll be right back, everyone.
I was thinking about the Black Ajah, she said weakly. Do not think of it, Shiriam said, and for once she sounded like the Shiriam of old, kindly if firm. The Black Ajah will not be your worry for years to come. You have what the rest of us do not, time before you must deal with it. Much time yet. When we enter, stay against the wall and keep silent. You are allowed here as a benevolence, to attend, not to distract or interfere. She opened a door covered in gray metal worked to look like stone. The square room within was spacious, its pale stone walls bare. The only furnishing was a long stone table draped with a white cloth in the middle of the room. Mat lay on that table, fully clothed, save for coat and boots, eyes closed and face so gaunt that Egwene wanted to cry. His labored breathing made a hoarse whistle. The Shadar Logoth dagger hung sheathed at his belt, the ruby capping its hilt seeming to gather light, so it glowed like some fierce red eye, despite the illumination of a dozen lamps, magnified by the pale walls and white-tiled floor. The Amyrlin Seat stood at Mat's head, and Lyanna at his feet. 4 Aes Sedai stood down one side of the table and 3 down the other. Shiriam joined the 3. One of them was Verin. Egwene recognized Seraphel, another brown sister, and Alana Mosfani of the green Ajah, and Anaya of the blue, which was Moiraine's Ajah. Alana and Anaya had each taught her some of her lessons in opening herself to the true source, in how to surrender to Saidar in order to control it. And between her first arrival in the White Tower and her departure, Anaya must have tested her 50 times to see if she was a dreamer. The tests had shown nothing one way or the other, but plain-faced, kindly Anaya, with that warm smile that was her only beauty, had kept calling her back for more tests, as implacable as a boulder rolling downhill. The rest were unknown to her, except for one cool-eyed woman she thought was a wife. The Amerlin and the keeper wore their stoles, of course, but none of the others had anything to mark them out except great serpent rings and ageless Aes Sedai faces. None of them acknowledged the presence of Egwene and the other two by so much as a glance. Despite the outward calm of the women around the table, Egwene thought she saw signs of uncertainty, a tightness to Anaya's mouth, a slight frown on Alana's darkly beautiful face. The cool-eyed woman kept smoothing her pale blue dress over her thighs without seeming to realize what she was doing. An Aes Sedai Egwene did not know set a plain, polished wooden box, long and narrow, on the table and opened it. From its nest in the red silk lining, the Amerlin took out a white fluted wand the length of her forearm. It could have been bone or ivory, but was neither. No one alive knew what it was made of. Egwene had never seen the wand before, but she recognized it from a lecture Anaya had given the novices, one of the few sa'angreal, and perhaps the most powerful, that the tower possessed. Sa'angreal had no power of their own, of course. They were merely devices for focusing and magnifying what an Aes Sedai could channel. But with that wand, a strong Aes Sedai might be able to crumple the walls of Tar Valon. Egwene clutched Nynaeve's hand on one side and Elaine's on the other. They're not sure they can heal him, even with a sa'angreal. With that sa'angreal, what chance would we have had? We'd probably have killed him and ourselves too. I will meld the flows, the Amerlin said. Be careful. The power needed to break the bond with the dagger and heal its damage is very close to what could kill him. I will focus. Attend. Held the wand straight out in front of her in both hands, above Mat's face. Still unconscious, he took his head and tightened a fist on the dagger's hilt, muttering something that sounded like a denial. A glow appeared around each Aes Sedai, that soft white light that only a woman who could channel could see. Slowly the light spread, until that which seemed to emanate from one woman touched that which came from the woman beside her, merged with it, till there was only one light. A light that to Egwene's eyes diminished the lamps to nothing, and in that brightness was a stronger light still, a bar of bone-white fire, the sa'angreal. Egwene fought the urge to open herself to saidar and add her flow to the tide. It was a pull so strong she was about to be jerked off her feet. Elaine tightened her hold on her hand. Nynaeve took a step toward the table, then stopped with an angry shake of her head. Light, Egwene thought. I could do it. But she did not know what it was she could do. Light, it's so strong. It's so wonderful. Elaine's hand was trembling. On the table, Mat thrashed in the middle of the glow, jerking this way, then that, muttering incomprehensibly. But he did not loosen his hold on the dagger, and his eyes remained closed. Slowly, ever so slowly, he began to arch his back, muscles straining till he shook. Still he fought and bucked, until finally only his heels and his shoulders touched the table. His hand on the dagger sprang open, and quivering crept back from the hilt, was forced fighting from the hilt. His lips skinned away from his teeth in a snarl, a grimace of pain, and his breath came in forced grunts. They are killing him, Egwene whispered. The Amerlin is killing him. We have to do something. Just as softly, Nynaeve said, if we stop them, if we could stop them, he'll die. I do not think I could handle half that much of the power. She paused as if she had just heard her own words. That she could channel half of what 10 full Aes Sedai did with a sa'angreal, and her voice grew even fainter. Light, help me, I want to. She fell silent abruptly. Did she mean that she wanted to help Mat, or that she wanted to channel that flow of power? Egwene could feel that urge in herself, like a song that compelled her to dance. We must trust them, Nynaeve said in an intense whisper finally. He has no other chance. Suddenly Mat shouted loud and strong, Muad'Din Tiadar Alende Kabadrin Radiem. Arched and struggling, eyes squeezed shut, he bellowed the words clearly. Los Valdar Quebiari, Los Karai an Kaldazar, Al Kaldazar. Egwene frowned. She had learned enough to recognize the old tongue, if not to understand more than a few words. Karai al-Kaldazar, al-Kaldazar. For the honor of the Red Eagle, for the Red Eagle. Ancient battle cries of Manetheren, a nation that had vanished during the Trolloc Wars, a nation that had stood where the two rivers was now. That much she knew, but in some way it seemed for a moment that she should understand the rest, too, as if the meaning were just out of sight, and all she had to do was turn her head to know. With a loud pop of tearing leather, the golden-sheathed dagger rose from Matt's belt, hung a foot above his straining body. The ruby glittered, seemed to send off crimson sparks, as if it too fought the healing. Matt's eyes opened, and he glared at the women standing around him. Mia Allende Aes Sedai, Kabale Misainye, Inda Mwagde Aes Sedai Misainye, Mia Allende. And he began to scream, a roar of rage that went on, till Egwene wondered that he had breath left in him. Hurriedly, Anaya bent to lift a dark metal box from under the table, moving as if it were heavy. When she set it beside Matt and opened the lid, only a small space was revealed within sides at least 2 inches thick. Anaya bent again for a set of tongs such as a good wife might use in her kitchen, and grasped the floating dagger in them as carefully as if it were a poisonous snake. Matt's scream grew frantic. The ruby shone furiously, flashing blood red. The Aes Sedai thrust the dagger into the box and snapped the lid down, letting out a loud sigh as it clicked shut. A filthy thing, she said. As soon as the dagger was hidden, Matt's shriek cut off, and he collapsed as if muscle and bone had turned to water. An instant later, the glow surrounding Aes Sedai and table winked out. Done, the Amyrlin said hoarsely, as if she had been the one screaming. It is done. Some of the Aes Sedai sagged visibly, and sweat beaded on more than one brow. Anaya pulled a plain linen handkerchief from her sleeve and wiped her face open. The cool-eyed white dabbed almost surreptitiously at her cheeks with a bit of Lugard lace. Fascinating, Varen said, that the old blood could flow so strongly in anyone today. She and Seraphel put their heads together, talking softly but with many gestures. She healed, Nynaeve said. Will he live? Matt lay as if sleeping, but his face still had that hollow-cheeked gauntness. Egwene had never heard of a healing that did not cure everything. Unless just separating him from the dagger took all of the power they used. Might. Brandas, the Amyrlin said. Will you see that he is taken back to his room? As you command, Mother, the cool-eyed woman said, her curtsy as emotionless as she herself seemed. When she left to summon bearers, several of the other Aes Sedai left too, including Anaya. Varen and Seraphel followed, still talking to one another too quietly for Egwene to make out what they said. Is Matt all right? Nynaeve demanded. Shiriam raised her eyebrows. The Amyrlin's seat turned toward them. He is as well as he can be, she said coldly. Only time will tell. Carrying something with Shadar Logoth's taint for so long, who knows what effect it will have on him? Perhaps none, perhaps much. We will see. But the bond with the dagger is broken. Now he needs rest and as much food as can be gotten into him. He should live. What was that he was shouting, Mother? Elaine asked, then hastily added, if I may ask. He was ordering soldiers. The Amyrlin gave the young man lying on the table a quizzical look. He had not moved since collapsing, but Egwene thought his breathing seemed easier, the rise and fall of his chest more rhythmic. In a battle 2,000 years gone, I would say. Blood comes again. It was not all about a battle, Nynaeve said. I heard him say Aes Sedai. That was no battle. Mother, she added belatedly. For a moment the Amyrlin seemed to consider, perhaps what to say, perhaps whether to say anything. For a time, she said firmly, I believe the past and the present were one. He was there, and he was here, and he knew who we were. He commanded us to release him. She paused again. I am a free man, Aes Sedai. I am no Aes Sedai meat. That is what he said. Anna sniffed loudly, and some of the other Aes Sedai muttered angrily under their breath. But Mother, Egwene said, he could not have meant it as it sounds. Manetheren was allied with Tar Valon. Manetheren was an ally, child, the Amyrlin told her. But who can know the heart of a man? Not even he himself, I suspect. A man is the easiest animal to put on a leash, and the hardest to keep leashed, even when he chooses it himself. Mother, Shiriam said, it is late. The cooks will be waiting for these helpers. Mother, Egwene asked anxiously, could we not stay with Mat? If he may still die. The Amyrlin's look was level, her face without expression. You have chores to do, child. It was not scrubbing pots she meant. Egwene was sure of that. Yes, Mother. She curtsied, her skirts brushing Nynaeve's and Elaine's as they made theirs. One last time she looked at Mat, then followed Shiriam out. Mat had still not moved.
Chapter 19. Awakening. Mat opened his eyes slowly and stared up at the white plaster ceiling, wondering where he was and how he had come there. An intricate fringe of gilded leaves bordered the ceiling, and the mattress under his back felt plumped full of feathers. Somewhere rich, then. Somewhere with money. But his head was empty of the where and the how, and a lot more besides. He had been dreaming. Bits of those dreams still tumbled together with memories in his head. He could not separate one from the other. Wild flights and fights, strange people from across the ocean, waves and portal stones and pieces of other lives, things right out of a Gleeman's tales. These had to be dreams. At least he thought they must be. But Loial was no dream. He was an Ogier. Chunks of conversation drifted around in his thoughts. Talks with his father, with friends, with Moiraine, and a beautiful woman, and a ship captain, and a well-dressed man who spoke to him like a father giving sage advice. Those were probably real. It was all bits and fragments, drifting. Wadrin Theodar Alende Kabadrin Radia. The words were only sounds, yet they sparked something. The packed lines of spearmen stretched a mile or more to either side below him, dotted with the pennants and banners of towns and cities and minor houses. The river secured his flank on the left, the bogs and mires on the right. From the hillside he watched the spearmen struggle against the mass of Trollocs trying to break through, 10 times the humans' number. Spears pierced black Trolloc mail, and spiked axes carved bloody gaps in the human ranks. Screams and bellows harried the air. The sun burned hot overhead in a cloudless sky, and shimmers of heat rose above the battle line. Arrows still rained down from the enemy, slaying Trolloc and human alike. He had called his archers back. The Dreadlords did not care, so long as they broke his line. On the ridge behind him, the Heart Guard awaited his command, horses stamping impatiently. Armor on men and horses alike shone silver in the sunlight. Neither men nor animals could stand long. You must win here or die. He was known as a gambler. It was time to toss the dice. In a voice that carried over the tumult below, he gave the order as he swung up into his saddle. Footmen, prepare to pass cavalry forward. His bannerman rode close beside him, the red eagle banner flapping over his head as the command was repeated up and down the line. But both the spearmen suddenly moved, sidestepping with good discipline, narrowing their formations, opening wide gaps between. Gaps into which the Trollocs poured, roaring bestial cries like a black oozing tide of death. He drew his sword, raised it high. Forward the Heart Guard! He dug his heels in, and his mount leaped down the slope. Behind him, hooves thundered in the charge. Forward! He was first to strike into the Trollocs, his sword rising and falling, his bannerman close behind. The honor of the Red Eagle! The Heart Guard pounded into the gaps between the spearmen, smashing the tide, hurling it back. The Red Eagle! Half-human faces snarled at him. Oddly curved swords sought him, but he cut his way ever deeper. Win or die. Catherine! His hand trembled as he raised it to his forehead. Los Valda Quebiare, he muttered. He was almost sure he knew what it meant. Forward the heart guard. Or maybe the heart guard will advance. That could be. Moraine had told him a few words of the old tongue, but those were all he knew of it. The rest might as well be magpie chatter. Crazy, he said roughly. It probably isn't even the old tongue at all. Just gibberish. That Aes Sedai is crazy. It was only a dream. Aes Sedai. Moraine. Suddenly became aware of his too thin wrist and bony hand, and looked at them. He had been sick. Something to do with a dagger. A dagger with a ruby in the hilt, a long-dead tainted city called Shadar Logoth. It was all foggy and distant, and made no real sense, but he knew it was no dream. Egwene and Nynaeve had been taking him to Tar Valon to be healed. He remembered that much. He tried to sit up and fell back, as weak as a newborn lamb. Laboriously, he pulled himself up and shoved the single woolen blanket aside. His clothes were gone, perhaps in a vine-carved wardrobe standing against the wall. For the moment, he did not care about clothes. He struggled to his feet, tottered across the flowered carpet to cling to a high-backed armchair, and lurched from the chair to the table, gilded scrolls on its legs and edges. Beeswax candles, 4 to each tall stand, and small mirrors behind the flames, lit the room brightly. A larger mirror on the wall above the highly polished washstand threw its reflection back at him, gaunt and wasted, cheeks hollow and dark eyes sunken, hair sweat-matted, bent like an old man and wavering like pasture grass in a breeze. He made himself stand straight, but it was not much improvement. A large covered tray sat on the table in front of his hands, and his nose caught the smells of food. He twitched aside the cloth, revealing 2 large silver pitchers and dishes of thin green porcelain. He had heard that the sea folk charged its weight in silver for that porcelain. He had expected beef tea or sweetbreads, the kinds of things invalids had pushed on them. Instead, one plate held slices of a beef roast, piled thickly with brown mustard and horseradish. On others, there were roasted potatoes, sweet beans with onions, cabbage, and butter peas, pickles and a wedge of yellow cheese, thick slices of crusty bread, and a dish of butter. One pitcher was filled with milk and still beaded with condensation on the outside. The other was what smelled like spiced wine. There was enough of everything for 4 men. His mouth watered and his stomach growled at him. First, I find out where I am. But he rolled up a slice of beef and dipped it in the mustard before pushing himself away from the table and the windows. Wooden shutters carved in lacy patterns covered them, but through the holes he could see that it was night outside. Lights from other windows made dots in the blackness. For a moment he sagged against the white stone windowsill in frustration, but then he began to think. You can turn the worst that comes to your advantage if you only think, his father always said. And certainly Abel Cawthon was the best horse trader in the 2 rivers. When it seemed somebody had taken advantage of Mat's father, it always turned out they had gotten the greasy end of the stick. Not that Abel Cawthon ever did anything dishonest, but even Taran Ferry folk never got the best of him, and everybody knew how close to the bone they cut. All because he thought about things from every side that there was. Tar Valon. It had to be Tar Valon. This room belonged in a palace. The flowered demonic carpet alone probably cost as much as a farm. More, he did not think he was sick any longer, and from what he had been told, Tar Valon was his only chance to get well. He had never actually felt sick, not that he remembered, not even when Varen, another name, swam out of the haze, had told someone nearby that he was dying. Now he felt weak as a babe and hungry as a starving wolf, but somehow he was sure the healing had been done. I feel well and whole. That's all. I've been healed. He grimaced at the shutters. Healed. That meant they had used the one power on him. The notion sent goosebumps marching across his skin, but he had known it would be done. Better than dying, he told himself. Some of the stories he had heard about Aes Sedai came back. It has to be better than dying. Even Nynaeve thought I was going to die. Anyway, it's done. Worrying about it now won't help anything. He realized he had finished the slice of beef and was licking its juice from his fingers. Unsteadily, he made his way back to the table. There was a stool underneath. He pulled it out and sat down. Not bothering with knife or fork, he made another roll of beef. How could he turn being in Tar Valon, in the White Tower of Castamere, to his advantage? Tar Valon meant Aes Sedai. That was certainly no reason to stay even an hour. Exactly the opposite. What he remembered of his time with Moraine, and later with Beren, was not much to go on. He could not recall either of them doing anything really terrible, but then he could not recall a great deal of that time at all. Anyway, whatever Aes Sedai did, they did for their own reasons. And those aren't always the reasons you think they are, he mumbled around a mouthful of potato, then swallowed. Aes Sedai never lies, but the truth an Aes Sedai tells you isn't always the truth you think it is. That's one thing I have to remember. I can't be sure about them, even when I think I know. It was not a cheering conclusion. He filled his mouth with butter peas. Thinking about Aes Sedai made him remember a little about them. There were 7 Ajahs: blue, red, brown, green, yellow, white, and gray. The reds were the worst, except for that black Ajah they all claim doesn't exist. But the red Ajah should be no threat to him. They were only interested in men who could channel. Right? Burn me, how could I forget that? Where is he? Is he all right? He sighed regretfully and spread butter on a piece of still warm bread. I wonder if he's gone mad yet. Even if he knew the answers, he could do nothing to help Rand. He was not sure he would if he could. Rand could channel, and Matt had grown up with stories of men channeling, stories to frighten children, stories that frightened adults too, because some of them were all too true. Discovering what Rand could do had been like finding out his best friend tortured small animals and killed babies. Once you finally made yourself believe it, it was hard to call him a friend any longer. I have to look after myself, he said angrily. He upended the wine pitcher over his silver cup and was surprised to find it empty. He filled the cup with milk instead. When and Nynaeve want to be Aes Sedai. He had not really remembered that until he said it aloud. Rand is following Moraine around and calling himself the Dragon Reborn. The Light knows what Perrin is up to. He's been acting crazy ever since his eyes turned funny. I have to look out for myself. Burn me, I have to. I'm the last one of us who's still sane. There's only me. Tar Valon. Well, it was the wealthiest city in the world. It was the center of trade between the borderlands and the south, the center of Aes Sedai power. He did not think he could get an Aes Sedai to gamble with him, or trust the fall of the dice or the turn of the cards if he did. But there had to be merchants and others with silver and gold. The city itself would be worth a few days. He knew he had traveled far since leaving the Two Rivers, but aside from a few vague memories of Caemlyn and Cairhien, he could remember nothing of any great cities. He had always wanted to see a great city. Not one full of Aes Sedai, he muttered sourly, scraping up the last of the butter peas. He gulped them down and went back for another helping of beef. Idly, he wondered if the Aes Sedai might let him have the ruby from the Shadar Logoth dagger. He remembered the dagger in only the fuzziest way, but even that was like remembering a terrible injury. His insides knotted up and sharp pain dug at his temples. Yet the ruby was clear in his mind, as big as his thumbnail, dark as a drop of blood, glittering like some crimson eye. Surely he had more claim to it than they did, and it had to be worth as much as a dozen farms back home. Probably say it is tainted too. Unlikely it was. Still, he spun a little fancy of trading the ruby to some of the Coplans for their best land. Most of that family, troublemakers from the cradle, where they were not thieves and liars as well, deserved whatever happened to them and more. But he really did not believe the Aes Sedai would give it back to him. He did not relish the notion of carrying it as far as Emond's Field if they did. And the thought of owning the largest farm in the Two Rivers was no longer as exciting as it once had been. Once that had been his biggest ambition. That, and to be known as his father's equal as a horse trader. Now it seemed such a small thing to want. A cramped thing, with the whole wide world just waiting out there. First off, he decided, he would find Egwene and Nynaeve. Maybe they've come to their senses. Maybe they've given up this foolishness about becoming Aes Sedai. He did not think they would have, but he could not go without seeing them. He would go, that was sure. A visit with them, a day to see the city, perhaps a game with the dice to pad out his purse, and then he would be off for somewhere where there were no Aes Sedai. Before he returned home, I will go home one day. One day I will. He meant to see something of the world, and without any Aes Sedai making him dance to her tune. Trudging around the tray for something more to eat, he was shocked to realize nothing was left but smears and a few crumbs of bread and cheese. The pitchers were both empty. He squinted down at his stomach in wonder. He should have been stuffed to the ears with all that in him, but he felt as if he had hardly eaten at all. He scraped the last bits of cheese together between thumb and forefinger. Halfway to his mouth, his hand froze. I blew the horn of Valir. Softly, he whistled a bit of tune, then cut it short when the words came to him. I'm down at the bottom of the well. It's night and the rain is coming down. The sides are falling in. There's no rope to climb. I'm down at the bottom of the well. It better be a bloody rope to climb, he whispered. He let the cheese crumbs fall on the tray. For the moment, he felt sick again. Determinedly, he tried to think, tried to penetrate the fog that shrouded everything in his head. Beren had been bringing the horn to Tar Valon, but he could not remember if she knew he was the one who had blown it. She had never said anything to make him think so. He was sure of that. He thought he was. But what if she does know? What if they all do? Unless Beren did something with it I don't know about, they have the horn. They don't need me. But who could say what Aes Sedai thought they needed? If they ask, he said grimly, I never even touched it. If they know, I'll handle that when it comes. Burn me, they can't want anything from me. They can't. A soft knock on the door brought him swaying to his feet, ready to run. If there had been any place to run to, and if he could have managed more than 3 steps. But there was not, and he could not. The door opened. Chapter 20. Visitation. Woman who came in, dressed all in white silk and silver, shut the door behind her and leaned back against it to study him with the darkest eyes Matt had ever seen. She was so beautiful he almost forgot to breathe, hair as black as night held by a finely woven silver band, and as graceful in repose as another woman would be dancing. He halfway thought that he knew her, but he rejected the idea out of hand. No man could ever forget a woman like her. You may be passable, I suppose, once you fill out again, she said. But for now, perhaps you could put on something. For an instant, Matt continued to stare at her. Then suddenly he realized he was standing there naked. Face scarlet, he shambled to the bed, pulled the blanket around himself like a cloak, and more fell than sat down on the edge of the mattress. I'm sorry for... That is, I didn't expect... He drew a deep breath. I apologize for your finding me this way. He could still feel the heat in his cheeks. For a moment he wished that Rand, whatever he had become, or even Perrin were there to advise him. They always seemed to get on well with women. Even girls who knew that Rand was all but promised to Egwene used to stare at him, and they seemed to think Perrin's slow ways were gentle and attractive. However hard he tried, he always managed to make a fool of himself in front of girls, as he had just done. I would not have visited you in this way, Matt, except that I was here in the White Tower. She smiled as if the name amused her. For another purpose. And I wanted to see all of you. Matt's face reddened again, and he tugged the blanket around him tighter, but she seemed not to have been teasing him. More graceful than a swan, she glided to the table. Are hungry? That's to be expected. The way they do things. Make sure you eat all they give you. You will be surprised at how quickly you put weight back and regain your strength. Pardon, Kat said diffidently. But do I know you? Meaning no offense, but you seem familiar. She looked at him until he began to shift uneasily. A woman like her would expect to be remembered. You may have seen me, she said finally. Somewhere. Call me Celine. Her head tilted slightly. She appeared to be waiting for him to recognize the name. It tugged at the edges of memory. He thought he must have heard it before, but he could not say when or where. Are you an Aes Sedai, Celine? No. The word was soft, but surprisingly emphatic. For the first time, he studied her, able now to see more than her beauty. She was almost as tall as he was, slender, and, he suspected from the way she moved, strong. He was not sure of her age, a year or two older than he, or maybe as much as 10, but her cheeks were smooth. Her necklace of smooth white stones and woven silver matched her wide belt, but she did not wear a great serpent ring. The absence should not have surprised him. No Aes Sedai would ever say right out that she was not. Yet it did. There was an air about her, a self-confidence, a surety in her own power to match any queen's, and something more, that he associated with Aes Sedai. Who aren't by any chance a novice, are you? He had heard that novices wore white, but he could not really believe it of her. She makes Elaine look like a cringer. Elaine. Another name drifting into his head. Hardly that, Celine said with a wry twist to her mouth. Let us just say that I am someone whose interests coincide with yours. These Aes Sedai aim to use you. But you will like it in the main, I think, and accept it. There is no need to convince you to seek out glory. Who's me? The memory returned to him of thinking that, but about Rand, that the Aes Sedai meant to use Rand, not him. They've no use for me, like they can have. What do you mean? I'm no one important. I'm no use to anyone but myself. What kind of glory? I knew that would fool you. You above all. Her smile made his head spin. He scrubbed a hand through his hair. The blanket slipped, and he caught it hastily before it could fall. Now listen, they are not interested in me. What about me sounding the fool? I am just a farmer. Maybe they think I'm tied to Rand in some way. Oh, Baron said. He was not sure what Baron had said, or Moraine, but he thought most Aes Sedai knew nothing at all about Rand. He wanted to keep it that way, at least until he was a long way gone. Just a simple country man. I only want to see a little of the world and go back to my Dawes farm. She means Lori. Celine shook her head as if she had heard his thoughts. You are more important than you yet know. Certainly more important.
All right, everyone, I'm gonna call into this live for tonight. I want to thank everyone for stopping by, and everyone continues to stop by. I appreciate all y'all's support. Until next time, y'all stay safe. There we go.